What Charlie didn't say may ultimately matter more than what he did. In the days following his death, a narrative quickly formed. It was emotional, it was powerful, it was centered around grief, faith, and inevitability. But as time passed, subtle inconsistencies began surfacing, not loud enough to dominate headlines, but persistent enough to make certain people pause. Because according to some accounts, Charlie never sent frantic messages the day before his death. There were no clear warnings, no desperate texts saying, "They're coming for me," no last-minute goodbyes, no messages suggesting he believed he would be killed the next day. Yet others claim something very different. And that's where the story begins to fracture. The question of the text messages. Several voices have alleged that after a private conversation involving close political allies, including Josh Hammer and a rabbi based in Israel, Charlie sent messages to two trusted associates, including his security chief, using language that implied imminent danger. Specifically, the phrase allegedly used was, "They're going to kill me." That sentence, if it exists in writing, changes the entire context of his final 24 hours. But here's the problem. Erika has publicly stated that he did not send messages like that. She has said she has access to his phone. She has denied that he was texting people claiming someone was about to kill him. So now there are two possibilities. Either the alleged messages never existed, or they did and they haven't been acknowledged publicly. The difference between those two scenarios is enormous. And it's that uncertainty that reportedly began to unsettle Charlie's mother. A mother's perspective. Grief can cloud memory. Trauma can reshape perception. That's true. But what's harder to dismiss is contradiction. In an early interview with the New York Times, Erika described the night before Charlie's final trip as tense and spiritually heavy. She said they met with a faith leader. She said she urged him to wear a bulletproof vest. She mentioned suggestions that he speak behind bulletproof glass. The tone was urgent, protective, almost anticipatory. It suggested awareness of risk. Then weeks later, during a live interview with Megyn Kelly, the tone shifted significantly. That same night was described as calm, peaceful, almost ordinary. Erika stated that neither of them lived in fear. They protected their children intentionally, yes, but they did not operate as if danger was closing in. Those two emotional frameworks don't align easily. Was the night tense and foreboding, or was it serene and faith-filled? Both cannot simultaneously define the same evening without explanation. According to people familiar with the family dynamic, Charlie's mother quietly began reviewing those interviews side by side. Not publicly, not aggressively, just privately. And the more she compared them, the more she reportedly felt that something wasn't just emotionally inconsistent, it was structurally inconsistent. When a mother begins to question the official version of her son's final hours, it's no longer internet speculation. It becomes personal. The doctor's office account. Another detail has drawn attention. Erika described learning about the shooting while at a doctor's office. She recounted screaming in a parking lot in the building, overwhelmed by the news. The emotional reaction itself is understandable, but some observers have questioned whether anyone present that day has publicly confirmed witnessing such a moment. In a crowded medical facility, a loud scream would likely register. It's not proof of anything if no one recalls it, but the absence of confirmation has fueled quiet doubt. Again, this isn't about disproving grief. It's about patterns. One inconsistency might be memory distortion. Several inconsistencies begin to feel like something else. The September 9th call. Then came the Zoom call. According to commentary that later surfaced publicly, there was a virtual meeting on September 9th involving Charlie, Josh Hammer, and a rabbi in Israel. The nature of that conversation has been debated. Some say it was spiritual. Others claim it was political, involving positioning, strategy, or ideological decisions. If the alleged text messages were sent after that call, then the timeline becomes crucial. Did something happen during that conversation that disturbed him? Was they referencing political opponents, internal disagreements, external threats? Erika has suggested that any suggestion of an imminent threat narrative is false. She has rejected the idea that Charlie was privately warning others he would be killed. But if independent sources maintain the opposite, then the truth hinges on documentation, texts, timestamps, call logs. And so far, those have not been publicly released. Silence, in cases like this, can become its own kind of statement. Who controls the narrative? In the months after Charlie's death, Erika became the primary voice describing his final days. That's natural. Spouses often carry the story forward. But with that comes enormous influence. The tone, the framing, the interpretation. Some observers have begun asking, is this simply grief shaping memory, or is it strategic messaging shaping legacy? There's a difference. Grief is inconsistent, strategy is consistent, and people are trying to determine which one they're seeing. The origin story problem. The questions don't stop at the final 24 hours. They extend backward, to the beginning of the relationship itself. Over time, Erika has shared multiple versions of how she and Charlie first met. In one telling, it was a chance airport encounter during a pilgrimage with her mother, an almost cinematic moment of recognition. In another version, she believed she was meeting him regarding a professional consulting opportunity in Manhattan. In yet another account, she described receiving a direct message on Instagram where Charlie mentioned being in New York for a Fox appearance and wanting to meet afterward. Individually, any of these could be true with minor variations, but collectively they don't align cleanly. They describe different settings, different circumstances, and different motivations. Why does that matter? Because consistency builds credibility. Shifting details invite scrutiny. Some have also pointed out that Erika moved in overlapping circles with people who already knew Charlie, including previous relationships that intersected socially. Public photos and archived posts suggest she may have been aware of him earlier than certain versions imply. None of that proves deception, but it challenges the simplicity of the random meeting narrative. And when combined with larger questions, small discrepancies gain weight. The timeline before the engagement. Another area of discussion has centered on the timeline of relationships leading up to the engagement. Public posts show that less than a year before becoming engaged to Charlie, Erika appeared to be publicly involved in another serious relationship. Then that relationship vanished from her social presence. Shortly after she appeared with Charlie, the engagement followed relatively quickly. Pregnancy followed soon after. Again, none of that is inherently suspicious. Relationships end, new ones begin. Life moves fast. But when family members reportedly requested private DNA testing to quiet speculation, the situation reportedly intensified. Sources say the request was framed as protective, not accusatory, a way to eliminate rumors permanently and move forward with certainty. However, according to insiders, the request was not well received. From that point forward, what may have been quiet discomfort allegedly grew into visible fracture. Mother versus mother. What makes this situation particularly volatile is that it reportedly extends beyond just widow and in-laws. It has allegedly become mother versus mother. Some sources claim Erika's mother believes external political figures are influencing Charlie's parents, feeding them doubt and encouraging suspicion. Others say Charlie's mother believes Erika's public narrative has been carefully curated from the beginning, possibly with guidance. That dynamic transforms grief into something else entirely, a battle over legacy. And legacy in high-profile political families is power. The political undercurrent. There's another layer that cannot be ignored: politics. If Charlie was reconsidering certain political positions in his final days, as some have claimed, then that context matters. If conversations were happening behind the scenes about ideological shifts, alliances, or strategic recalibration, that changes how certain statements might be interpreted. Was they political opponents? Internal disagreements? External threats? Or was it nothing at all? Simply a phrase misremembered or misattributed? Without primary evidence, interpretation fills the vacuum, and interpretation can be dangerous. Why this matters? At the heart of this entire situation is one fundamental issue: trust. Do the public accounts of Charlie's final days align? Do the timelines make sense? Are the variations natural products of trauma or indicators of narrative management? No one is disputing the tragedy. No one is minimizing the loss. A life was cut short. A family was shattered. But when interviews shift in tone, when timelines feel compressed, when origin stories evolve, and when alleged messages contradict public statements, people begin asking questions. Not because they want scandal, but because clarity matters, especially when legacy is involved. The silence. Perhaps the most telling element of all is what hasn't happened. There has been no release of text screenshots to settle the debate, no definitive timeline published, no full reconciliation of the differing interview accounts. Instead, there is silence. And silence in emotionally charged situations tends to amplify suspicion rather than calm it. If there's nothing to hide, transparency resolves doubt quickly. If there's complexity, avoidance can make it look worse than it is. Right now, the public is left with fragments, contradictions, competing narratives. And in the middle of that storm is a mother quietly asking, am I hearing the full truth about my son's final day? The unanswered question: is Erika protecting Charlie's legacy, or protecting a version of events that best preserves stability, image, and narrative control? That question doesn't imply guilt, it implies uncertainty. And uncertainty is where this entire story lives. Until documents are clarified, timelines confirmed, and contradictions reconciled, the speculation will continue. Not because people enjoy controversy, but because inconsistencies demand resolution. At the end of the day, this isn't about politics. It isn't about internet commentary. It's about a family trying to understand what really happened in the final hours of someone they loved. And when a mother begins to doubt the story she's been told, that doubt doesn't disappear easily. It waits for answers.